That you were one of our earlier patients.
Very early.
Very
yes.
early. But that's awesome. So I kind of wanted to know what, like, when did you first come to our hospital, and what was it for?
Well, the first time was in 1948. It was the spring of 1948, and I was coming in because the school nurse noticed my neck leaned over to the side. And I'd gone through a series of chiropractic treatments, and that didn't seem to help. So they asked to speak to my mother, and the nurse came to the house, and mother and dad talked to them, and she evidently told them that there was probably a way that that could be corrected. So mother and dad said yes, they would agree to let me go and have it corrected, which was fine. So I went into the hospital in that spring, but they put me in traction for a week, and I laid flat on my back on traction, and I got pneumonia because I'm not used to, kids not used to laying flat or anything like that. So then after they treated me for the pneumonia, they dismissed me. So I thought I was home free. I didn't have to go back anymore. So lo and behold, in December 48, December 28th, they contacted me and our mother and said that I have to come out to the hospital again. So I was admitted on the 28th, and for 5 days it's the 28th, about a week. Then they performed the surgery, January 5, 1949. And so then it was history from there. I mean, I woke up, they gave you ether at that time. And ether is a terrible thing. I can still smell it to this day, and it makes you sick at your stomach. Well, when I came out of the anesthetic, I had a cast around here, down, the top of my head was open, my ears, and the cast went all the way down to my waistline.
Oh my.
So if I were regurgitating the ether, some of it was going down into the cast, oh my God, it was terrible. So I stayed in that cast for 30 days. And that was just, I guess, to keep me straight or whatever.
And this was on your sternocleidomastoid muscle.
That was right here, yeah,
Yes.
right here. Still got the scar,
What doctor did that?
Dr. Harry Goldberg.
Okay.
And and then, excuse me. I mean, other than just keeping myself busy, I read a lot, and I didn't have to go to school to keep up lessons because I was already ahead of most of the kids there. I went to the library a lot and just socialized with the girls in the ward. And,
Did they have a school teacher that came in for
they
some of the kids?
did. They had a school teacher. I forgot her name, but she came one day to see me, and she said, "I don't think you need my instruction." She said, "You're welcome to come and use the library." And I said, fine. And I was always a reader, so I read all the Bobbsey twins and whatever else I could find, in the library. Because it was geared for lower grades than I was. I was in the 7th grade by then. So it was geared for lower grades. But I enjoyed reading them, and I'd kind of be the legs for some of the girls in the ward. Because that most of them were bedridden. Some of them could get out on crutches and maybe a wheelchair. There were several that were definitely, so if they needed something, I would go get it in the ward.
Okay. So did you kind of make friends then with the other
Oh my,
kids
yes,
in the
oh
ward?
yes, oh yes. When you live with someone for that many weeks, and you have to talk and everything, we talk and complain and everything else. So yes. And then every Sunday, your parents could visit you. So mom and dad would come out and visit me on Sundays, which I was always glad to see them. And then my brother and sister, they would ride out on their bicycles and see if they could find me, through the windows, and I could wave at them and stuff like that,
Oh my gosh. So it wasn't real far from your house?
No, it was Easter Parkway, and I lived over here on Charles, so it was just a matter of coming up Goss, going down Easter Parkway. It's just several blocks.
Okay, so you were close, but some of the kids were from far away.
Oh my goodness, different parts of the state. Absolutely, yeah. There were several girls in the room at the time that were from Louisville, but most of them were from who knows where. I don't remember all the places, but most of them were from down in the country. Yes.
Wow.
So their parents or families couldn't really see them often, but Mayor Hoblitzel, he wasn't mayor then, but he was Bruce Hoblitzel. He would come every Sunday, and any boy or girl that could have a wheelchair or anything that could be movable, he'd take them down to the corner drugstore and buy them ice cream.
He was the mayor of Louisville?
He became the mayor of Louisville later, and that drugstore's still there. I forgot the name of it. The drugstore. He found like a ice cream stick or whatever was available.
Isn't that something?
So just so they would have something to do on Sundays, which was and you think you have to. It was probably a half a block to go, but if you're wheeling yourself down for a half a block, that's kind of nice. I never got to go because I always had company. Because from Louisville, but I know that part was enjoyable for the kids.
So that's really nice.
Yes,
I didn't know that.
Yes.
So because some of the kids could never really go home.
No, they couldn't go
their parents
home.
couldn't come visit.
And you lived at one end of the state, try to come to Louisville every week, or periodically somebody would come. Sometimes they'd come in the middle of the week and visit, and they would let that person see the patient. But it was a lot of loneliness.
Right, and you were there for 2 months.
I was there from December 28th, and I think I came home right about Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Yeah. They finally took my cast off at the end of January and put me in a brace. And I have a picture of me in the brace, but I couldn't find it today. It's in a box somewhere. I'll find it and send it to you. And I I was like 12 and I had real long hair, straight long hair. So whoever did it for me took it all up and put it up in a top knot up here on top. It's because my cast was open at the top, Yes,
Isn't it?
It was out of the way. It never wasn't going down the back of the cast,
That is like a body cast almost.
It is. It was a half a
That's
body
right.
cast from here on up.
Yes.
I mean, I wasn't going to move too much,
But you could walk around.
Oh, I could walk around. There's nothing wrong with the legs. In fact, one day I had a traction bed, and the traction bar came across. I didn't need a traction bed, but that's what you got. And I thought, well, I'll just swing on that bar. So I was swinging on the bar. Luckily, nobody found me doing that. But that's what we do, So if I had anything to stretch, I probably stretched it.
That's funny.
Yes.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So did you have you shared a room with someone?
Well, the first time I was there was a ward of 5 girls. And then the second time I went back, there was a ward of 7 girls.
Okay.
So there was a 7-bed ward, a 5-bed ward, and a 3-bed ward. So there was really like 15 girls on that end of the wing. And I assume there were about that many at the boys' wing.
The boys that had another wing.
Right down the hall, yes.
Okay.
And the girls we would fuss because in the morning, anytime they bring you food, they would come in on a cart, and the ladies would bring your tray. They'd always take the boys and serve them first. Well, by the time we got to the girls, food got to the girls' room, the eggs were cold and the milk was warm, It took me the longest time to even want to drink a glass of milk because of the warm milk,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then the toast, when you butter toast, it gets real oily like,
Yes.
The toast was that way. Now, other meals weren't so bad, but that breakfast, oh my gosh, I know.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was a memory I'll have forever.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. So did you got to hang out then with the other girls?
Absolutely. Yeah, I could go visit different people. Sometimes, we just congregate around one of the girls' beds who couldn't move, and we'd have conversations. And we had a TV, so we were able to watch. 1949, we had our TV, so we could watch TV. I mean, back in those days, it was like basketball and stuff like that none of us really cared about, but we would watch it,
Right.
And then there was always something to
You
do.
said there was a library there.
There was a library. I could walk to the library and get my books and I'd read, yes. had a little radio. I'd listen to the soap operas on radio, and that would get on some of the nerves of the other girls. But I mean, that's how you entertain yourself, you know.
And then one of the physicians we talked to said there was a swimming pool, and you said you remember
There was
that.
a swimming pool in the room. I mean, somewhere in the hospital. Yeah, it was down, like, here was the front of the hospital. And then we went back, and then our wing was in the back. It was like an H or something.
Okay.
So all this other mechanisms, the surgeries and all that were in the other areas, you know. So,
Okay.
yeah.
But you never used the swimming
Never used it because I didn't
had a
need it.
cast
Yeah,
on it.
cast, that's right. Yes, that's right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the iron lung that was there?
From a distance, I mean, like the boys would come out in the hall, you know, just like the girls would come out in the hall and congregate. The boys would be down there, and the iron lung was always out there in the hall with the rest of the guys. Yes,
Was anybody using the iron?
yes, he was. The fellow was in the iron lung. Yes, and I think his name was Eugene. I'm not sure, but I think his name was Eugene. Yes, and then they had a clever little cart. Well, they have them now at Children's Hospital, where the kids can wheel, but they were carts. They were not like wheelchairs.
Okay.
And so some of the boys and girls could get around and stuff. The legs were straight out, and they used arms to, you know, do the wheeling. So,
Okay.
yes.
So did they have any polio patients? Is that what?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
I wondered if that was.
Yeah, that was some of the polio patients. Well, I'm sure the iron lung patient was a polio patient because polio can affect anything, you know.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's just really interesting. I mean, it's. I'm just trying to think if there's anything.
What did
else.
you feel like your treatment was like? Like, did you see the doctor occasionally? Did you have any type of physical therapy when you got your cast off?
After I was dismissed, I had physical therapy. While I was in the cast, I had nothing.
Yeah.
And then I had the brace on, and of course I had to be fitted for that. And they fitted me there at the hospital with the brace, and I wore that home. Then I started physical therapy. I'd go back once a week for physical therapy at that place, and then I'd ride my bicycle over. That's how close we were, you know. So
you went right back to the same place they did the
For-
outpatient physical
for
therapy.
physical.
So a physical therapist was there.
Yes,
Did that,
absolutely.
Did exercises.
yes, there were more than one. You know, they had a whole physical therapy department.
Yeah.
So yes, and I can't remember how long I took physical therapy. You know, also they gave me this big corset. I don't know why they made this corset. It come up the back, and
Yeah.
you know, but I think that was just to keep the spine and everything straight. I don't know, and that was most uncomfortable, but I wore it. And then I take it off with the physical therapy. They put the heat lamp on you, and they work your arms and whatever, neck and stuff, and then you dress and go home. You know, so.
So, any other? Gosh, I'm trying to think if there's any other questions that we have. Do you know how long some of the other kids were staying there?
This one little girl, I think her name was Lois. She hadn't been home for 7 years. She had been burned from her neck all the way down. So she had a lot of treatment to go through, and she was on her back while I was there. But I went back for one of their Kozer picnics when they would have it on the grounds, and they had like an alumni booth. You go to the booth and you'd sit. She was walking on crutches when I went back to see her.
Oh wow.
So by that time, I think I was out of grade school and in high school. So I went on over to the picnic. So and saw her. Another little Martha Blair was her name. I think she had polio, and I think she went home while I was there. She got to go home while I was there. Not too many patients got dismissed, you know, because it was always long term. Nobody had a short term stay, you know. It was
So you
always,
might have had one of the shorter stays.
probably, yes. You know, yes, yeah. I mean, some of the polio would, you know, they'd be there for a while till they could fit them with braces or whatever. And the treatment was always slow. It wasn't a rush treatment, you know. I don't know if that was good or bad. You
The
know.
doctor we talked to said one of the reasons kids stayed so long was because of the anesthesia not being good. So
Oh, it was ether. Oh my goodness gracious,
and he
yes.
said it made people sick and they had
Oh, it was.
long-term problems
Oh,
from it.
yes.
So.
Oh, well, I'm sure they did. I didn't, other than can smell it for many years afterward, you know.
Yeah.
So yes, but yeah, it was rememberable.
Do you remember having lots of pain after your surgery?
No, not one piece of pain. Not one. Not one.
And it felt like it corrected the problem in your neck. And
As
head?
far as I knew, it corrected because the cast kept me straight. So it was cutting a muscle, I believe. So, I mean, once it healed, I guess and it keeping me straight and not moving my neck or anything because I couldn't turn, I had to turn all the way like this,
Right,
to
right.
move. But I assume it did, yes.
Did you keep up with any of the girls or boys after you got out of there for a while? Or just
For a few years, and then, of course, I got into high school, and life changes for you when you're a teenager, So, and like I said, I go back to the picnics, and if somebody was there that I knew, I'd see them, but, nobody really to correspond with too much after that, And then I ran into one of the physical therapists after I lived on Dartmouth. She moved in a house up the street. And I was collecting one day for one of the charities, and I recognized her, and we started talking. So, and her name was Eloise Draper.
oh, I think I know that.
You
name.
might know her name because she was
I
a
just
well-known,
have heard it.
yes, a
Yes.
well-known physical therapist. Yes.
Before my time as a physical
Oh,
therapist
definitely,
there. Yes, I
definitely,
think
yes,
she was one
yes.
that
But
was
that's
mentioned.
probably a name that's probably no one down there.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
But it's different. It's an experience. I'll never forget it. It helped me a whole lot. I'm straight there. The head stays straight. I wanted to bring you some pictures when I was a little girl, so you could see how my neck leaned over. You said sometimes they lean and you look like this, but I never looked to the side. I just was always and it wasn't way over. It was just tilted a little bit.
So I can't be sure what you had, but what you were describing to me is torticollis, which is pretty common in newborns now, but we do physical therapy as a baby, and it usually is resolved. I've never really heard of having surgery.
Well, on the card, your diagnosis was always on the card above your bed, And in my young years, I took it and tried to pronounce it, and I pronounced it sternocleidomastoid.
Okay.
So, and then my sister-in-law, who was a nurse, kind of helped me with the pronunciation later on in years. But I called it not Ocleido, but another. But that was what they diagnosed it as. And then I asked one time, and I think it was Dr. Goldberg said it's a wry neck, is what they call it, W-R-Y, wry neck. Yes.
Right. And I think that's torticollis by
Yeah.
today's, that's the more
Right.
correct term that
Yes,
they use
right.
now.
Yes.
But it's usually noticed in infancy.
Yes, right. Yes.
Now, and
yeah.
it's corrected so
Yeah.
young that even the doctor we interviewed earlier said he had never heard of having surgery for it, and yet he also said he worked for Dr. Goldberg when he first came here. That
Oh,
was
really?
He came in under,
Dr. Goldberg was a chain smoker. I mean, even while he was examining you, that cigarette was hanging down from his mouth, Yeah, I mean, it probably end up killing him probably,
Oh, my goodness,
later on in
times
years.
have definitely changed. Did Dr. Goldberg come to see you on a regular basis after the surgery, or just every
No,
once in a
let's see.
while, or just nurses? Or
Every so often the doctors would come to the hospital for a meeting, and the doctors would come by the wards and visit people they knew. And I think one time Dr. Goldberg came by just to check with another doctor. But after I got home, they scheduled me an office visit with Dr. Goldberg when everything was over, and he seemed to be satisfied with my prognosis then. So there you go. Yeah.